What's up, boys? Welcome to week 6. Already at week 6 of fantasy football. As normal, we have myself, Jacob Santino Carocci, Keith Kwasigroch, and Nikko, 18-year-old Mexican Velazquez. Cheers, salud. So, what I want to do first is I want to review, week 5 outcomes, week 5 standings, and then we'll see how we did on those predictions. But first, I'll start that off, and I'll begin with Keith. Keith played Quinto last week, and it was a pretty one-sided victory for Keith.
Yeah, I'd say
won 142 to 99, and I believe I had that one, and I had that one right. I think I picked Keith. Did I pick you?
Yep.
Right. So I had Keith, and Keith is actually in first place right now. He's got a record of 4-1, and then Quinto is in dead last. He is 1-5, I believe. 1-4. Yep, 1-4. So he's not having any luck. I think he had some injuries, but does he have Tyreek Hill?
No, Dorf does.
That's the other league. Oh, yeah, that's the other league.
Dorf has Tyreek.
Yeah, Drew Brees.
Oh, yeah. AJ Green.
And AJ Green. Yeah, his team's just not
That's
there.
his own fault for taking Kareem Hunt, so.
No.
Shucks.
So that was a pretty easy victory. As far as the actual matchup goes, Keith, who went off for you?
Who went off for me? It's Michael Thomas.
Oh, yeah. Didn't your quarterback do good, too?
Yeah, Matt Ryan threw 3 TDs, too. So he hasn't done that all season yet, and he finally popped off, and they still lost. But I'll take the points, obviously.
Yeah, so you had Matt Ryan and Michael Thomas went off, but Will Gallman got hurt. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think he
Austin Eckler, that's what it was.
Got knocked out. Yeah.
That's who the one I was thinking of. He had 15 catches.
Yeah,
it's insane.
Oh man, but so Keith won. I had that prediction correct. But Nico, you want to go next?
Yeah. I had Kiss the Baby versus Carpet Munchers. And Jim pulled this one out somehow. I feel any close game when it comes to Jim, he always comes out on top. But the breakdown of this one, I think the biggest thing was Mahomes showing signs of being mortal. It's the second week straight of him not breaking 25 points, whereas Russell Wilson for Jimmy went off for 4 TDs. And definitely a quarterback in my mind who has really true control of his offense and a great rushing attack, so that helps him have those big nights. His wide receivers, Julio Jones for Kiss the Baby, went 3 for 42, making it out 2 weeks straight without breaking over 8 points. So maybe Julio Jones is due for one this coming up week, but again, still sitting under 8 points was tough for Jim. Whereas Trim had Amari Cooper, which I think everyone knows. His stat line was 11 catches, 226 yards, and a TD against a pretty decent Green Bay Packers secondary. So that was that on the heads up match. I'm pretty sure I selected Julio Jones and was completely wrong on that.
Yeah, you had the Carpet Munchers coming out on that one.
I did. Yeah, how do you not pick Julio, man?
I know, that's insane. Julio or so, and then and then their wide receiver number 2 spots were basically even. With Boyd outscoring Kupp by just 1.4 points. Both men finished with over 100 yards receiving a TD catch. Alvin Kamara for Carpet Munchers had, I guess a quote-unquote quiet night. He had 100 yards from scrimmage, but didn't hit pay dirt. And his counterpart for Jimmy, Derrick Henry, had, again, an average day as well, slightly outperforming his projection by 0.75 points via 78 rushing yards and a TD against Stingy Bills D. David Montgomery for Brad, extremely disappointing for outing as a Nagy-led offense just continues to struggle. I'm a Bears fan, but it's so tough watching Nagy and this offense he's trying to put out here. There could be so much more, and it's just not getting it done.
Yeah.
Le'Veon Bell for Jimmy, despite being the only bright spot on an awful Jets offense, continues to be serviceable at the running back 2 position. 14.30 points and finishing his day just 12 yards shy of 100 yards from scrimmage. So that was a solid day for Jim. And the fun one here was the tight end battle. So I projected this, that the tight end battle was going to be a snooze fest, and it was.
Yeah.
That was easy.
Yeah. Both players, Ebron and Knox, combined for a whopping 4.33 points.
Wow.
1.5
killing it.
Yeah, and 2.8 for Knox.
That's funny.
Yeah, and then the flex pitted 2 Eagles against each other. Jeffrey for Carpet Munchers and Howard for Kiss to Baby. Jeffrey had an average night, 6 receptions, 52 yards. Howard just as many rushing yards, but also did come away with a TD and outscoring his Philly teammate by 2.73 points. The kickers were 11 points apiece, pretty straightforward there. Tampa Bay D got a measly 3 points for Trim. Jimmy got 11 from Houston. So I think for any matchup across this league, really, you're always going to get into that what if thought process. And I think that was, that's magnified when it comes to these close victories that Jim always gets. But at the end of the day, you're either smelling the roses or, as my friend Billy Ryan, the owner of the Juices Loose, once said, kicking rocks.
Yep.
Kicking rocks, baby. I do want to point out, though, that Mahomes didn't have his 2 best receivers and was playing on a rolled ankle the whole night. So he still threw for 300-plus yards. But
very true.
He'll be fine.
Yeah, and
plus Tyreek Hill, I think, is coming back, and Sammy Watkins this week.
Now, was he out those 2 wide receivers last week too when he scored under 25 points?
Yeah. He was out. Sammy Sammy didn't suit up. Oh, he did suit up, but he pulled his hammy in like the first series.
Possession.
Yeah.
So he was out last week too. He pretty much playing with his, 3rd, 4th, and 5th wide receivers as the 1, 2, 3 guys.
Yeah.
He still threw a touchdown at 300-plus yards, but with those Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, they're just better.
Yeah.
They make him better. Better long ball threat. I mean, when he had those guys in the beginning of the year, he threw 40-yard plus touchdowns every week, 3 times a week. The first 3 weeks, he had 7 40-plus yard touchdown passes.
Yeah, that's insane. And I think and I think even that, like I'm saying that, he didn't break 25 points. Any quarterback, I think, in any other league would be happy with getting 25
Absolutely,
points.
yeah.
So used to seeing Patty 30.
That's it. That's his floor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The floor is 300, 1 touchdown.
Yeah. But,
all right, Keith, next.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to one last thing just to tie up this matchup, though. I was, as it was already mentioned earlier by Keith, I was ultimately wrong in this prediction. I took Brad over Jimmy, and now Jimmy sits at the number 2 spot while Trim at the number 7.
Ooh, Trim, 3 losses in a row.
All right. So this next matchup we'll break down here is Friar Douglas versus Seabass. Look at this game. And it's fairly obvious what happened. Christian McCaffrey had himself a day. He's been having a lot of days. He's their whole offense, and he's been popping off multiple touchdowns, multiple ways, 200-plus yards, breaking records. That's just, he's on your team. It helps a lot. And then Aaron Jones played the Dallas Cowboys. And the Dallas Cowboy defense did not show up at all. And Aaron Jones got all 4 touchdowns. That obviously hurts too. So there's really not much you can do when playing somebody and they have 2 running backs pop off like that. It also didn't help you, Nico, that Odell was non-existent. Again,
I love it.
And obviously, Devontae's out, so you sprinkle in Valdez-Scantling there, seeing if he catches some targets, and he just got scripted out. Rodgers didn't need to throw the ball that whole game. He didn't need to
all
throw
got
at all.
scripted out.
Yep. They just handed it to Jones, and then that was pretty much the game. So tough loss for you, Nico. McCaffrey's probably going to keep doing that. I mean, obviously, there'll be some outliers, but he's going to be putting up numbers like that all season, barring any injury. I don't see Aaron Jones obviously he's not going to score 4 touchdowns every game. I remember we said last week that we really kind of, didn't like Aaron Jones at all consecutively.
Yeah, I just said he's touchdown dependent. That's all I said.
He got 4 of them,
and he got 4 of them, so that's good.
Well, he also had
100 plus yards.
He had 100 plus yards too, so he just had a day.
Well, the 2 weeks before that, he had 21 yards, a touchdown, 19 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So it's like,
yeah, you just caught him on a bad week, Nico. So
yeah, I got my ass handed to myself on that one. That was bad.
There's nothing you can do about that. I mean, he has an average day, and you get some points out of Valdez-Scantling, and obviously it's a lot closer, but
if he has an average day, you still lose by 30.
It's ridiculous. I mean, Trick has put up what it was 100. Was it 190 points?
100, pretty much 189.37.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
So 190. That's the average score, if not one of the top scores in our East Coast Elite with all those bonus.
That's above average. I would say our average is like 170.
Yeah, it's crazy.
165.
But anyways, what's the next matchup on the docket there?
All right, we'll come back to me. I got Billy Stinks against Casey. So I actually got this one wrong. I talked a lot of shit about Billy, and I still don't like his team, but he ended up beating Casey 138-107.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Let me bring this up real quick. I just had it, but I had to look at Seabass's demise.
That was bad.
So, yeah, Billy pretty much, what I remember is he had 3 people go off, and they're all his wide receivers. So it was Adam Thielen, Chris Godwin, and Allen Robinson. They all went off. So together, they each had 2 touchdowns, and they each had 7 catches. And Allen Robinson had 97 yards. If you get 3 more yards, all 3 would have been over 100 yards as well. So all of them went off. And Mike Evans for Casey was literally non-existent. He didn't even get the ball thrown to him.
He didn't even get the ball thrown to him.
He literally had 0 points. And
it's terrible.
That's insane and that's why Chris Godwin, did so good. He's really good, and he gets all the number 2s for everybody's defense.
I remember saying at the beginning, before the season started, that I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the year Godwin was the man in Tampa, and it looks like it's projecting to be that so far.
That's a good call. I didn't even think of that. I didn't even know that guy, who his name was.
And then Ertz had a touchdown too, so he pretty much Billy scored a lot. They had a lot of TDs, but he had even on Aaron Rodgers' off day, he only had 238 yards and no touchdowns because he just gave the ball to Aaron Jones. Mm-hmm. But pretty much those 3 players combined had him at 90 right there, and Casey only scored 107. So it was a pretty easy victory for Billy. He sits right now at 6th, and Casey dropped to 5th.
And Billy's about to get Saquon back.
Not this week.
But
he could get Saquon back next week. If once that happens, maybe I'll bump him up in my power rankings. I haven't decided. Yet. But I did say I was talking a lot of crap, so my apologies, Billy. I did you wrong there. I had you losing, and you came out victorious. So. I did not predict that one correct. But Nico, you're up next.
Yeah. So this next matchup, I had Jake J-Fed versus Dorf Scary Terry Sharknado. This one here, the quarterback battle in this game is extremely lopsided. I had expected Goff to outperform Baker, but I didn't expect a negative 1 point outing for the Cleveland quarterback. That was bad.
That was so
I was tweaking out going into Monday night. I was like, damn, like he just needs to get 20 to 20 points. And then
-1.
at the halftime, he was like -4 or something. I was and he
bad.
went backwards. It's like, and Odell is on that team. That was a great night for me.
Yeah, that was tough. At the wide receiver battle, we had two Jaguars going toe to toe. Westbrook for J-Fed and Chark. Is it Chark? Is it Shark? Chark, right? Chark, yeah. For STC. Unfortunately for Jake, Gardner just loves him some Chark. Chark finished his day with 8 receptions, 164 yards, and 2 TDs. Where Westbrook finished with a respectable 7 for 82, but no pay dirt. For the wide receiver 2 battle, both players had identical days. Sanu for Jake and Woods for Dorf each had 5 receptions, both low to mid 40 yards receiving. But one came away with a scoring TD, and that, my friends, was Mohammed. I left Cincy for this, Sanu.
You really did.
The RB1 battle had Mixon for J-Fed, David Johnson for STC. Mixon surprised me. I remember I was really pooping on him about running behind that Cincinnati offensive line, but he almost amassed 100 yards rushing with 93 behind that awful O-line. So he got work done. And then D Johnson had 3 receptions and a total of 156 yards from scrimmage. So he had a pretty nice day.
Arizona's D-line stinks too, though. So I was like, 2 shitty lines playing each other.
Yeah. At the RB2 spot, there was a bit more disparity in scoring. Philip Lindsay for Jake put up a monster day, 23.6 points via 114 yards on the ground, a rushing TD, and 4 catches. That's a big day coming for your RB2 against Carlos Hyde for Dorf. Bit quieter afternoon, 60 rushing yards and a TD. And now to the tight end matchup. This tight end matchup, like my last review for Jim and Brad, was also an absolute barn burner with the combined points of both players. Delaney Walker and Greg Olson being, wait for it, 1.67 points.
Oh my God.
I'm just going to say this.
That was all me.
The tight end position this year has been absolutely brutal. I'm pretty sure everyone can attest to that. So if you have a good tight end, count your blessings.
Yeah.
There's 4 of them, maybe.
That's it. The flex position was not much better here. Geronimo Allison for J-Fed went 2 for 28. Stephon Diggs, 3 for 44. So, I mean, pretty close, similar numbers. Both kickers, 15 points apiece. Defenses were pretty even as well. LA Chargers for Jake scoring 16 points. Buffalo for Dorf putting up 13. For this matchup, I was correct in my prediction. I took J-Fed over Charknado, and Jake now sits at the 8 position, Dorf at number 10.
Yeah, it was really that. It was just that QB that really made the difference.
Yeah.
Pretty much right there. But all right, Keith.
All right, so I think this would be the last matchup of last weekend. And one of the closest matchups I've ever seen. Ball Deep All-Stars, Jagro, squeaks out a win by .08.
Wow.
Yeah. So Joey, it's terrible. Somehow, with Sammy Watkins putting up 0 points and nobody going over 20 except his defense, which is the Eagles' defense, he was still in the game. He had a chance to win. Normally, you really wouldn't have a chance to win, but he was right there. And really, the bread and butter of Jay Gross' team is Dalvin Cook and Leonard Fournette. They're both playing really well this year. They are giving the ball to Dalvin so much in Minnesota that it's pissing off their wide receiving core. So obviously, as long as he's healthy, and they're doing the same thing with Leonard Fournette, it's actually a really balanced offense in Jacksonville more now. I think Chark, which we talked about earlier, he's the top 5 wide receiver as far as yards go now. And Minshew's playing well. But other than that, Todd Gurley for Groh went off too. And everything else is pretty much a wash. Zeke had a mediocre day. Melvin Gordon, they're just going to keep, trickling him in. And once they're behind, I guess it kind of looks like Eckler's going to be out there, and they're just gonna throw him the ball. So
15 times.
Yeah, Gordon can kind of get scripted out there, and that's kind of what happened. I believe Denver got out to an early lead, and they were behind the whole game. I think Phil ended up throwing 2 or 3 picks because they were just passing the ball the whole game.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know why. It's not like Gordon can't catch the ball.
He can. I know they used to throw to him in the past. I don't. Maybe he's not at 100%. I don't know what's going on there. But my previous pick, I picked you, Nikko, and I got that wrong, obviously. Sorry, buddy. And I picked Joey to win this week too, and I got that wrong. So all that trash talking about how I'm a good predictor obviously didn't come to fruition. I'm 0 for 2 so far.
Yeah, you're 0 for 2. Me and Nikko are both 1 for 1.
Yep,
that's right.
And you know the rankings right now are Keith, Jimmy, Trickus, Nikko, Casey, Billy. That would be the playoffs. If it were to stop right now, then it's Trim, myself, Gronodorf, Basla, and Don Juan 08 at the bottom. So that's the current standings, and those are the reviews from last week. Again, me and Nikko are tied 1 for 1. Keith is 0 for 2. I told you he was going to stink. I was right, so technically I'm 2 for 1 if you really think about it. But let's go on to the power rankings now. You know, every week they could change, so they actually did change a little bit this week. But what I want to do is we'll just each review our top 6 of the rankings, and then I'll review the consensus top 12, power rankings after that. But I'll start it off. I had the same guy at the top as I did last week, Kiss the Baby. I just think his running back core is the best, and he doesn't really have that bad of wide receivers either. And as far as his quarterback goes, let me see. I forget what he has for his quarterback. Kiss the Baby. Not to mention he's 4-1 in second place right now. He does have a couple close victories though, so I feel like he could be 2-3. He's got Russell Wilson. That's right. That's who it was. Julio, Cooper Kupp, Derrick Henry, Le'Veon. It was really his wide receiver core, and he's got Marlon Mack as well. So I think he's got the best team overall. And then from there, second was Fryer Douglas. He moved up a spot. I had him third last week, but now this week I have him second. He's got a good squad. Evan Ingram's hurt this week, but I still think that Christian McCaffrey is just a stud. If Aaron Jones keeps getting touchdowns, and he's like that, LeGarrette Blount gets 18, 20 touchdowns in a year, then that's going to be huge for Trickus. So after that, I have Kraft's Rub Route, Keith, and I think that out of everybody at top, no offense, I think Keith's got the most risk as far as dropping games. But that's just my opinion. So I got you 3, and then Carpet Munchers, Seabass, and myself, J Fad. Let's go. Coming in at that 6th spot. I told you I'm gonna be 7-6, win the first playoff game.
Yeah, good luck to you, bro.
All right, Nikko, you want to do yours?
Yep. So from my power rankings, I kept Kraft's Rub Route at the top. I mean, the guy's still number 1 in our league, and a big part of that too. You've scored the most points. Obviously, I look at people's teams. The teams, the personnel that they have, obviously is going to show the strength of your team. But I mean, at the end of the day, you're as good as your record, how many points you're putting up, and you have the most at 665 points thus far. You have a pretty good 1-2 punch of wide receivers with Keenan Allen and Michael Thomas, and Austin Eckler, who's still relevant, which, again, I know was a big question mark to see if he was going to be phased out now that Melvin Gordon's back. He's still sticking around, still putting up points, so I kept you at 1. Fryer Douglas, after the ass whooping he gave me, I felt I could bring him up to number 2. I truly got to feel the wrath of his 1-2 punch of Christian McCaffrey and Aaron Jones, and Tyler Lockett, who's usually good for a long TD, and he has the second most points in the league at 646. So that was good enough to put him at second. For third, I put JMO. Jimmy's got a damn good team, and he's sort of has a pretty good 1-2 punch both in the wide receiver and running back personnel, as you just listed. Julio Jones and Cooper Kupp and Le'Veon Bell and Derrick Henry. I mean, those and four Marlon right Mack. There. And it is flex. That's pretty disgusting. Albeit though, he only has 603 points scored, fifth most out of the league. So there are other teams putting up points besides all that personnel, but again, enough to put him at 3. 4, yours truly, myself. I had the fourth most points scored, so I put myself at 4th. I like my running backs, James Conner and Chris Carson. With both of those heavy running teams, they like to hand the ball off, and as long as they can stay healthy, and again, with Pittsburgh running the Wildcat too, possibly some passing touchdowns, who knows. For 5th, I have Trim. He has the 3rd most points scored, 638. It stinks that he's 7th in our league because he has a dangerous team. And he's put up 3rd most points. He just seems to always be catching guys on weeks where they go off and he goes off. So I get it. I'm in that position in another league, so I feel for you, Trim. He has Patty Mahomes, Amari Cooper, and Alvin Kamara. Those 3 very lethal. And then 6, I kept Jake there at JFed. The 8th points scored, which again, it's not too bad, but I see the potential with your team, especially with Devontae Adams, Kerryon Johnson, and Phillip Lindsay, who can put up big days at any point in time, like we saw this past week. But before I go off here, I sort of picked out a weakness for every single team as well. So starting at the bottom with Jake, with your team, does Detroit continue in the right direction with their offense? You have a lot of Detroit players on your team, Kerryon Johnson and Galladay, just for those 2. And if that offense continues in the right direction, then it's promising. But if they start faltering at all, might be in trouble. For 5th, for Carpet Munchers, sort of what we were talking about early on, does Patrick Mahomes become mortal? Does he have his bad days? Has defenses cracked him now? Or is he going to continue to get back to where he usually was in the beginning of the season? For myself, does Carson Wentz start playing like Carson Wentz? He's my starting quarterback, but he hasn't really performed to the caliber that I think he can play at. For 3, for Jim, does Jim's luck ever run out? King of the close matchups.
Yeah, right.
I feel like he always is every year.
All the time.
Yeah, he's such a toad.
All right.
For real.
And then for Trickus, an injury to C-Mac would be devastating. Can he keep going?
Yeah.
Nico threw out that jinx, Trickus. He's done. He's done.
That offense runs through Christian McCaffrey. Everything. So that would be a big hit towards him. As long as he stays healthy, then Trickus' team's looking pretty good. And then finally for Keith, a lot of question marks.
Keith's downfall is himself.
But I think if Melvin Gordon starts to taking away from Eckler was my big question weakness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I worry about that too.
By that, I feel like they're trying to ease him in, but I don't know. I mean, maybe Gordon's out of shape for a little bit. They're trying
with my team, I'm in a position where I'm just going to keep riding Eckler till I don't have a reason to, because there's nobody I can really use. So,
sure.
As far as my rankings go, I also have JMO Kiss the Baby at number 1. Like you guys have said, I'll just reiterate, he's got a complete team.
Yep.
He's on a 3-game win streak. He's just there's not a lot of bad things you could say about his team, and I just that's why I have him at number 1. I just, as far as potential, he's there. He's got all the makings that you need. So and apparently he has a bunch of luck on his side too. So hopefully that runs out. Number 2, I have Friar Douglas, just because the clip that Christian McCaffrey's running at right now, barring injuries, like you said, if he keeps that up, he's Trickus in the pieces that he has on his team, he's going to be putting up a lot of points on a weekly basis. But just like any team, injuries can hurt. I don't wish injuries upon anybody, but anytime a running back such as Christian is getting the amount of touches that he's getting game by game basis, even Norv Turner was in the media saying that he's worried about the amount of touches that Christian's getting. Obviously, the more times you touch the ball, the more times the odds of you getting injured are higher. So we'll see. Number 3, I have myself. Obviously, the wide receivers I have are the staple of my team. That's why I have the most points currently. Pittsburgh doesn't have a quarterback right now, so I don't know how I feel about Juju at this point. But I'm gonna. He ends up with 6 catches and a touchdown, so I gotta roll with him until I can't. And Sony finally showed up this week, and he showed up on my bench, and I still won. It looks like the Giants are not going to be putting up much of a game this week on Thursday. They're bringing nobody. So I expect a blowout with a bunch of Sony. So hopefully that helps me. But you never know with the Patriots. It might be Rex Burkhead day on Thursday. So we'll see.
It's good for my defense in the league.
Number 4, I got Blue Jesus Chicken Wing. He has a solid team. Like you guys reiterated, his only problem is that he has to play the Mike Evans game. Which one am I going to get this week?
Yeah.
And you just never know.
You got to play him.
You got to play him. And he could catch 2 bombs, 150 yards, no problem. Or he could completely disappear, apparently. Which you wouldn't think in a Bruce Arians offense would happen. But we witnessed it. Number 5, I have Nikko Velazquez. Solid core. Obviously, your running backs are your bread and butter, and they're going to get the ball. It's exactly what you want as in a fantasy team. You just got to figure out get a solid piece at that flex position.
Seriously,
it's something we all struggle with. MVS obviously he didn't help you out this week, so
nope.
Number 6, I have Carpet Munchers. I have Trim there. Simply because whenever you have Patrick Mahomes and Alvin Kamara on the same team, your potential to go off is very high. We saw, like we said earlier, we saw Patrick Mahomes' floor this week. He was nursing that injury as well. They're going to get back into it, and they're going to be throwing the ball all over the place. And once Tyreek, Sammy are back in the lineup, he's going to be probably producing at the same pace that he was last year, which obviously is a great thing for the Carpet Munchers. Yep. That is the gist of my power rankings.
Yeah, so who knows what's going to happen. I feel like for Patrick Mahomes this week should be, a shootout. They're playing Houston.
Should be. Yeah, should be.
Obviously, you never know, but
yeah.
If it's going to be a week where he comes back, it's probably going to be this one. But
right.
So overall, after that, the consensus 12 team power rankings are as follows. Kiss the Baby, number 1. Friar Douglas, number 2. Kraft's Rub Route, number 3. Seabass, number 4. Carpet Munchers, number 5. Blue Jesus Chicken Wing, number 6. J-Fed, 7. The Juice is Loose, 8. Sean Archer, 9. Balls Deep All-Stars, 10. Scary Terry Sharknado, 11. And Don Juan rolling out last place again. So
again.
We'll see what we have next week. But I want to get into our final segment of the day, and that's current matchups and predictions. Our favorite part of the day. Review current matchups and the predictions for week 6. So first matchup we have is myself against Grono, and I think Keith, you have this one. So make sure you write down the predictions as well.
I will. Okay, so in this matchup, right now Yahoo has you winning, Jake, by a whopping 4 points. So obviously it's a really close game.
Oh yeah, baby.
I took so it's Jared Goff versus Phillip Rivers. Jared's in San Fran. It's essential, and it's a home game. So I gave the nod to Jared Goff on that one. Will Fuller versus Kenny Galladay. We saw what Will Fuller can do last week. Insane fantasy numbers. It looks like defenses are queuing on DeAndre, and Will Fuller is just running wide open. And if that keeps happening, then he's going to eat. However, it doesn't happen every week. That being said, I still gave the nod to Will this week. He's got the better matchup in Kansas City. Kenny Galladay runs into the Packers in Green Bay. Devontae versus Mecole. I think the obvious nod goes to Devontae there if he plays. Mecole is a hit or miss kind of person, and once those guys in Kansas City come back, he's going to be kind of irrelevant at that point. Dalvin and Leonard versus Joe Mixon and Kerryon Johnson. I give the running back nod on both sides to the Balls deep all-stars there. I just think they're obviously two of the best running backs in the league. Joe Mixon, I watched that game last week in Arizona, and Joe Mixon had 70 yards in the first quarter. They were running draw plays, and he was running up the middle for like 10 yards a pop. But then what happens is Cincinnati gets behind, and they get completely scripted out. So that's probably what's going to happen to Joe for the rest of the season. So if he doesn't get a touchdown early in the game, he's susceptible to being scripted out. And then passing downs when they're behind late, Gio Bernard's in there. Tight ends, Delaney Walker and Gerald Everett. I gave the nod to Gerald on this one. It looks like Jared Goff is throwing the ball 5 million times a game, and he had the advantage of catching a lot of those passes last week. Delaney and the Tennessee offense just looks not exciting at all. It's super boring. Delaney used to be a staple at tight end. He used to be able to count on him for 7-8 catches and 60 yards, which is fine at the tight end position. But that's not happening this year. I don't really see Mariota even being the quarterback in Tennessee after the end of the season. I think they're going to move away from him. He's not playing very well. He's kind of a one-read dude, and that offense is just really vanilla. So I gave the nod to Everett at home there. Kickers, Greg the Leg at home, Kaimi Fairbairn in Kansas City. I gave it to Greg the Leg because I like that nickname. And I think that they're going to be scoring a lot of points, but actually kicking a lot of field goals. Chargers defense versus Pitt, and Seattle defense in Cleveland. I think from what we saw Monday night, Cleveland is they're kind of reeling. Their offense is not that great. Baker is I like the dude, I really do, and I would like to see that team play well. But the knock on him is he's also a kind of like a one read guy. He looks at Jarvis, he throws it at Jarvis. He looks at Odell, throws it at Odell. I don't know if his skills that he showed in college are necessarily transcribable into the NFL at this point. That's not to say that he can't get better and he can't become a good quarterback, but right now he's just not playing well. So I gave the nod to the Seattle defense there. That being said, I'm sorry, Jake, but I am going to pick Balls Deep to take the W this weekend just because of the matchups. I really think upset. Yeah, I don't like Philip Lindsay playing against Tennessee. You got a lot of guys in really bad matchups this weekend, Jake, and I think it ends up hurting you in the end. I'm going to go with Balls Deep All-Stars this week.
I can't hear him. Jake, you on mute?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I was just talking so much crap to Keith. Keith, what I was saying was Looks like you're 0-3.
Yeah, you hope so, right?
Anyways, Nico's up.
So for my matchup, I had Blue Jesus Chicken Wing versus Crass Rub Route. Looking at the wide receiver position between Tom Brady for Casey and Matt Ryan for Keith, both guys definitely have the offenses to go off at any point in time. I like Matt Ryan in this. One, people may say like it's tough being on the road, playing against in someone else's house, but it's in a dome. Matt Ryan's used to playing inside a dome area, well, unless they have the roof off. But I like Matt Ryan in this. He's coming off a hot game, throwing over 300 yards, couple of TDs. I think he's going to continue that, and he's going to continue that good momentum into this game against an Arizona defense that's giving up the third most points to quarterbacks. So Matt Ryan gets the check mark in this one. For the wide receivers, very good wide receivers in this. Keenan Allen versus going up against DeAndre Hopkins. I liked Keenan Allen in this one as well. He's going up against Pittsburgh's defense, which is given the 16th most points. Houston going up against KC, who's getting up the 23rd most points. And I honestly think it's going to happen again where they're really going to start keying on DeAndre Hopkins, sort of eliminate him, not letting them hurt their defense. And I think they're going to be prepared to hopefully neutralize Will Fuller or any of the other guys so they don't go off for a big game like what happened last week. So Keenan Allen gets a check mark in this one. This next matchup, Michael Thomas versus Mike Evans. Again, two stellar wide receivers. I mean, I don't even know how you can pick one over the other. I like Mike Evans in this solely because I think it's just going to be a redemption game. He got completely scripted out in his last game, I think, against another rival, against Carolina. They're home in Tampa Bay, and Carolina's given up the 7th most points to wide receivers. I like Mike Evans in this one. Running backs, Austin Eckler, Mark Ingram. I took Mark Ingram in this. Baltimore's just they have Lamar Jackson. He's a versatile Swiss Army knife, but they like to run the ball. Mark Ingram can do that very well. I like Mark Ingram here. For running back 2, Sony Michel over Williams. I haven't seen too much out of him out of Kansas City, and LaShawn McCoy's still there. He's taken reps from him at all times. Sony Michel is going to have a big day against New York. He gets a check mark there. For the tight ends, Greg Kittle. I like Mark Andrews. Is it Mark or Mike Andrews?
It's Mark.
Mark Andrews in Baltimore. I like him. I like him a lot. But I like Greg Kittle more. Yeah. and then for the flexes, sort of what Keith you were already touching on with Juju. I mean, who's the quarterback? What are they doing in Pittsburgh with that offense? It's tough to rely on how he's going to be getting his receptions and his touchdowns. Gallup in Dallas, he's back, he's healthy. I like him a lot. And kickers was a toss-up, but the Tennessee defense I think is going to be the big difference going against Denver. Mike is it Vrabel or Vrabel? Vrabel, great defensive-minded coach. He knows how to make a good defense work. I like Tennessee in this one. And with that said, Kraft's rub route is going to get the check mark, the overall win against Blue Jesus Chicken Wing. He's going to continue to win and go to 5-1 on this.
Well,
I hope so. I really do.
All right, the next matchup is Sean Archer against Seabass, the one and only Nico. But so this one currently it has a favor. Nico favored. Yahoo does 56%. 129.88 to 122.34 projection. And I'm gonna break it down with the quarterbacks first. Sean Archer has Lamar Jackson, and then you Nico, you have Carson Wentz. And to me, I think that's an easy choice. Lamar Jackson home against Cincinnati. So I think they're going to destroy him. So I'm going to pick Lamar. I'm going to give him the nod there. And then as far as wide receivers, we got C. Ridley for Atlanta and D. Slayton for the Giants for Basla. And then for you, Nico, Odell and Julian Edelman. And I think even though Odell Beckham has really been having 2 crappy weeks in a row, I'm going to give the nod to the wide receivers on this one just for the matchup with Julian Edelman against the Giants. I think they might even pull out their starters in the fourth quarter. That's the only thing that would be your
downfall. They did it last week.
As if they pull out the starters somewhere in the fourth quarter and you don't get a full game. But even if that happens, though, that means you guys are, the Giants are getting destroyed. So, Baz taking a risk playing Slayton because Ingram and Shepard are out, Barkley's out, Gallman's out. Pretty much don't have an offense right now. We're going with all our backups. Danny Dimes, the rookie, they're putting him in a bad situation this week against the best defense in the league that's only given up 2 touchdowns all year. And wow. I think the total points that they've given up is like 22 all year. And that's not including, pick sixes or fumble recoveries for a touchdown because obviously, technically that's not against the defense. But, yeah, I'm going to give the nod to the wide receivers for Nikko on this one. And then we go to the running backs. Basil's got Ezekiel Elliott and then the question mark Melvin Gordon. And then you got James Conner and Chris Carson. And I don't for this one, it's tough because you don't know Melvin Gordon. You don't know what that game play is going to be like. You don't know if they're going to get down early against Pitt. I don't think they do. And I think Melvin Gordon could, get his projection, if not more. And with a touchdown, maybe get, 15 carries, 80 to 100 yards, touchdown. I like your running backs, but I'm going to give the nod to Basla on this one just for one reason only. Ezekiel Elliott's playing the New York Jets.
Monster.
And that's it. He's a stud. He's been putting up 15. He's not even having a great year, and he's putting up 15-plus a week in this league. I think he breaks 20 this week, 100-plus yards, touchdown. He's going to have a few catches, and then at least 30, 50 yards receiving. If he gets a receiving touchdown too, then obviously that's a plus. But I think he breaks 20 this week, and that's why I'm bringing the nod over to Basla. And then we got the tight ends. Basla's got Kelsey, you've got Disley. And I think this is an easy pick as well. I'm going with Kelsey. I love Kelsey. Obviously Patrick Mahomes loves Kelsey too. They're playing Houston. I think it's going to be a shootout. It's a home game for Mahomes and them. So I'm giving the nod over there. And then the flex, James White against Tate. And I'm actually giving the nod to Basil again. James White against the Giants. James White has been quiet, as far as the offense goes, because you never know what he's going to get, but he's still involved in that run game, and Tom Brady still passes it to him all the time. Mm-hmm. He's been getting 11 points every single week consistently, and I don't even think he has that many touchdowns. So against the Giants, he could definitely score, and I think James White gets a nod there. Plus Tate, is number 2 wide receiver for Cincinnati, who has a horrible line. Obviously, we've said that many times. Pretty much they throw to Tyler Boyd. Tate might get, maybe 5-6 targets, but Tyler Boyd gets like 10 targets a game, so they really like him as a number 1. But the kicker and the defense, I'm giving the nod to Nikko, and I think this makes a difference. Yeah. Even though Dallas is playing the Jets, I really think the Patriots this week for Nikko could have 20-plus points easily. And I think the Baltimore kicker going against Cincy, he's got 2 great matchups there. I think Tucker could have 15-plus points as well. So I'm giving the nod over there to him. But overall, I think Seabass does not come out with a victory. I think Sean Archer comes out with the upset.
Okay.
I'm picking Sean Archer. Sean Archer to beat Nikko. Zeke Elliott, 32 points.
Yeah, it's possible.
Sorry, buddy.
It's all right. It hurts just a little bit, but it'll go away.
Okay, so this next matchup here, we have Friar Douglas versus Don 108. And
don't sound too excited, Keith.
as you can imagine, Yahoo has Friar Douglas predicted to win this game to the tune of a 74% overall margin, 126-97.
I don't think he has his full lineup in, though.
Yeah, that's why it's kind of hard to kind of go through this.
Quinto's just giving up.
So,
He's just giving up.
Earlier, so last week, Quinto, I don't know if he realized that this week his other tight end would be on a bye, but he traded away Kittle, and now he doesn't have a starting tight end. He doesn't have a defense currently on his roster starting because his other defense also has a bye. So not only is he the worst team in the league, not only is he the worst team in the league, but he also did not advantageously prepare for his bye weeks. So he's hit with the bye week bug this week as well. So let's just go through this real quick. I think Don gets the nod with Deshaun Watson over Gardner Minshew. Deshaun Watson in Kansas City. A lot of points there potentially. Jarvis over Tyler Lockett. I'll even give him the nod there. Golden Tate might even show up and score more points than Christian Kirk. So Don, first three players there, there's hope. There's real chance. Nick Chubb and Matt Breida versus Christian McCaffrey and Aaron Jones. That's where it starts looking back. Nick Chubb had a great week, and then they ran into San Francisco and got absolutely exposed, and Nick Chubb he pretty much kind of fell off there. Matt Breida had a great week too. That San Francisco run game is looking legitimate. Tevin Coleman is back. Good for you, Dorf. He looked really well. He played really well. Aaron Jones, if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to be right there with Matt Breida. I'll give a slight nod to Aaron Jones there. Hawkinson, if he plays, is a tight end one. He tried to hurdle someone and then fell on his own head and gave himself a concussion. Didn't end up on IR, but he's day-to-day still. If he plays, obviously I have to give him the nod over a non-existent tight end that Don Juan cannot play. Devontae Freeman gets the nod every time over any Tampa Bay running back, just because Tampa Bay's running backs are, the bottom of the barrel there. Kickers is just a wash there, and Don doesn't have a defense starting.
Man.
So I got to get the nod there. Obviously, I think it's pretty obvious. I'm going to pick Friar Douglas to win this week. However,
you got the easy one.
Yeah. I hope I'm wrong.
Wins.
I hope he wins. I hope he scrapes together something.
That'd be amazing.
And pulls the win off. Maybe somebody goes off. I have no idea. But
whatever tight end he picks
you gotta give yourself a chance to put people on your roster that are gonna score points. And he's just not doing that at this point. So Don, if you hear me, scrape that waiver wire for a tight end and defense. Give yourself a shot, bro.
There should be a rule that you got to put a full squad in.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're in last place. You're demoralized.
What do you mean? He can win 8 games in a row.
I think he could win 8 games in a row, but the math's not there. So that's where I'm at on it. Good luck to you, everybody.
It's tough.
Yep.
So you're saying Kento's giving up? I
think so.
I think he has.
I think between both of our leagues, ECE and SJS.
ECE, he's in 8th place in that league.
Is he in 8th?
Yeah, he bumped up. He won.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
well,
so.
All right, maybe there's some hope.
I think Keith's in last in that league.
No, I'm not in last. Not yet.
Not yet.
Close.
Oh, man.
All right. So we'll head over to my matchup. I had Carpet Munchers once again versus the Juices Loose. Trim versus Bill. Quarterback matchup. I took Patty Mahomes again. I think he's finally going to shake off not being able to get over 25 points the last 2 weeks and hit that projection of 32.73. Him against Houston, again, it's going to be a big shootout. And,
Hope so.
And I'm not really too confident in Kyler Murray. I know he's got a lot of hype, number 1 draft pick, won the Heisman. I just haven't seen much coming out of him yet. I mean, he's putting up points, but I mean, I guess I was expecting a little bit more. So Patrick Mahomes gets a check mark there. Wide receivers, Amari Cooper, I'm not picking against you this time. After what he did against a pretty decent Green Bay defense, he's going up against the New York Jets secondary now. I think he's going to have another great day. So I'm going to choose Amari Cooper over Adam Thielen, even though Thielen has a pretty good matchup against Philly's secondary, and he's coming off a really good week. I like Amari in this because I learned my lesson. I'm not picking against him.
That was against the Giants, though.
Yeah, true. But yeah, the Giants also. But the Philly has given up the 5th most points to wide receivers. Giants, I think it's like 3rd or 4th. So they're pretty similar there. For the wide receivers with Tyler Boyd and Godwin all day. We've seen what he can do, especially if defenses are so focused on Mike Evans. So I'll take Godwin there. Running backs, no brainer. Kamara over Royce. I mean, it's pretty tough for Bill's team where there's top. I mean, I think there might be someone on a. That's right, he has Saquon, but Royce Freeman as your RB1's pretty tough. So Alvin Kamara gets the nod there. Thompson in for Carpet Munchers against Ito Smith. I like Ito Smith. Devontae Freeman and Ito Smith have been basically doing a timeshare at running back in Atlanta. And I know this personally because I have Devontae Freeman on the team. And I see that his touches really get split with Ito Smith. And Ito Smith puts up points. So I'll just give Ito Smith a nod on that one. For tight ends, Zach Ertz over Jared Cook. Although Cook's coming along, he's
he had a game.
Yeah. Had a game. He's starting to do what people thought he was going to be able to do. So, but still, with that said, Zach Ertz at the flex, when you're starting a tight end at your flex, either, you got hit with that bye bug as Keith had mentioned, and that's what Billy has. He has Hooper at his flex, which isn't bad. And you can, if you know that tight end's going to be putting up a lot of points, but I like Larry Fitz over Hooper for the flex. For the kickers, wash defenses, Tampa Bay against Carolina, Jacksonville against New Orleans. If I had to give a slight edge, I'd probably go I'd probably go with Jacksonville. Jacksonville's defense is pretty solid. But overall, I mean, it's 4 check marks apiece. I'm going to give the big check mark to Brad. Brad, I picked you last week, and you did me wrong. You gave me a loss. I'm going to go with you again. Don't screw me over.
Oh, that's great. All right. And then before we head out, we're on to the final matchup. Kiss the Baby against Scary Terry. Oh, wow. This is going to be a good one. First,
Come on, Dorf.
Well, just like Keith was talking about, currently Jimmy doesn't have a tight end in, and Dorf doesn't have a defense in. So, I guess we'll just go with the flow here. But first, we'll start out with quarterbacks. Jimmy's playing Russell Wilson at Cleveland, and then Matt Stafford at Green Bay. Russell Wilson's been hot. He hasn't thrown a pick yet. He's the number 1 ranked, I believe, player in this league. So I'm going to give the nod to Russell Wilson against that Cleveland defense that literally had a horrible Monday night in front of the whole entire country. So giving the first nod to Jimmy. And then we have Julio and Cooper Kupp against D. Chark Jr. and Robert Woods. So this one, I'm going to give it to Jimmy. I'm going to give the wide receiver, check mark to Jimmy. Julio Jones is at Arizona this weekend. I think he has a big game. Not to say, Dorf's wide receivers aren't going to have good days either. I just think Julio's going to go off this week. So I'm going to give the nod to him. And then for running backs, we got Derrick Henry for Jimmy and Le'Veon Bell against David Johnson and Carlos Hyde. And I'm going to give the nod to Jimmy again. I think that, Le'Veon, he's pretty much all that the Jets have. And I believe they have Darnold back this week from mono. So they could put up some decent points. Their defense really sucks. So that's really their downfall. But Derrick Henry, they pretty much he's just a workhorse. He just gets the ball 15, 20 times a game, and they run him down the field. So he's broken 11.53 every single week. And if he scores, he gets higher. So I'm going to give the nod to him. So far, Jimmy doesn't have a tight end, and Dorf has Greg Olsen. I did check the tight ends out on the waiver wire, and whoever he does decide to pick up, I'm still going to give the nod to Greg Olsen at Tampa Bay. And then we have the flex. M. Brown, or what was that, Malcolm Brown?
Hollywood Brown, baby.
For
Marquise
Baltimore,
Brown.
Marquise
Mm-hmm.
versus Cincinnati, and then McLaurin, Washington wide receiver at Miami. So I believe I gave him the nod here for Dorf, but I think he had Tyreek Hill in the lineup. Yeah, he did. So I guess it depends on if Tyreek Hill plays or not. Let's see. His most recent update is he's going to be a game time call. So yeah. I think if he plays, obviously Dorf puts him in there, and I give the nod to Dorf. If not, I think at this point it's probably a wash. I mean, Miami really sucks, even though the Redskins aren't that good either. But Miami's just terrible. So I think it's a wash at that point. But if Tyreek's in there, I give the nod to Dorf, and then kicker and defense. Kicker as a wash. I have it as a wash, and then defense I put it as a wash because Dorf doesn't even have a defense in there, and Jimmy still has Houston in there at Kansas City. So I think that's idiotic if he keeps that. But who knows?
Dangerous. Let's see how this plays out.
Who knows? So overall, Jimmy got three check marks, and they're the three most important ones: QB, wide receiver, running back. So I'm giving the nod to Jimmy. And I think he comes away with a victory. I think he's 5-1 at the end of week 6.
Dorf, I'm pulling for you, baby.
Do it. Obviously you are.
So just to reiterate, I have Balls Deep All-Stars of Friar Douglas winning. Nico, you have myself and the Carpet Munchers winning. And Jake, you have Sharon Archer and Kiss the Baby winning this weekend.
All right.
Trim, don't let me down.
Let's see. Let's see. Let's go, Basil. I know you can beat Nico. I know it. But you guys got anything else to say before we sign off?
No, I'm good. I'm gonna pray that Mason Rudolph didn't get his brains knocked out of his skull, and he can actually.
Did you see that play?
I know he got absolutely.
Annihilated.
Got stunned.
He should have had a mouth guard on. What's he thinking?
They're holding him up, and he's drooling on himself.
Reminded me of myself with my left hook in college.
Yeah.
I hope, if I had to say, I hope Nagy takes this week off to hopefully get the Bears offense going. Maybe Trubisky wakes up, starts playing like a pretty decent quarterback, and take some pressure off the defense. Bears win the Super Bowl.
At least you guys have a chance. I'm playing the Patriots on Thursday night with no offense. So
yeah, that's not going to be a game.
It's not good.
I think one thing that we could probably bring up that I think everybody agrees with, like Jake, you sent it to the group earlier. I don't. You guys can in the group text can chime in, but I had no idea that trade went through last week until I looked.
Still no response.
I'm fine with it.
Go ahead.
I got no problem with it. I just don't know if everybody is going to be up in arms. Like, are we supposed to be getting notified about that? Or
yes.
Right? I think that's just standard operations there.
I don't think they were like big enough trades that to bitch about that something went through. But I do feel like with the way that it works, just I don't know what's been going on with Quinto, but just throw a trade alert out. Just say trade alert, check it. Check the trade, and then that's it. And then if anybody has a problem with it, just say something, and if not, then just let it go through.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
Yep. Yeah.
So I don't think it's that much to ask. Just throw a little reminder text out there, but
yeah.
All right, boys. So week 6 is officially on the way. Good luck to everybody out there in the fantasy world, and let's go Yankees. Salud.
Peace. Love you all. Have a good week.
Adios.
Peace.